Today's flight is going to be quite short from McBride down to Valemount, British Columbia, and we're testing the wonderful freeware glider, the DG-600 from Wolfgang Piper. This is the 17 metre version with the winglets, and it's fitted with the B21 instrument set by Ian Forster Lewis. Quite an interesting glider in the sense that the if we have a look at the rear view, and then if you look at the ailerons, they're more or less or almost the full length of the wings, but they also act as the flaps. So when I extend the flaps, you see the ailerons acting as the flaps as well. The flight plan couldn't be simpler today. It's just from one airport to another airport. In this case, we're starting our flight plan at Charlie Alpha Victor 4, and we're flying to Charlie Alpha Hotel 4, Valemount. So that's the flight plan that we'll load into the glider. But we're not going to fly direct. We probably could find a thermal around here somewhere and go pretty close to doing that, but no, we're going to fly along this ridge till we get somewhere between Croydon Station and Red Pass Junction, at which point we'll fly direct to the airfield. So the actual flight plan will be more like this. Something like that. Just have a look at the elevation. It looks like we'll be flying somewhere above 6,000, perhaps 7,000 feet along the ridge. If we find any thermals along that ridge, we'll test the thermaling ability of this glider, and then on this direct final glide to Valemount, we'll test the final glide ability and the prediction on the glide computer. These are the CumulusX settings I'm going to be flying with today. I guess the main thing to note here is that I've bumped up the thermal coverage a bit in the hope that I will run into some thermals to test this glider out in thermals as well as ridge soaring. For my weather settings today, it's all manual. Just going to customize advanced weather. I've set the Cumulus layer to be broken 6/8 coverage, base at 7,000, tops at 10,500. I've also added in an upper level cirrus layer just for appearance sake. Wind, as always, I've got 2 layers because of the bug in FSX. The bottom layer is 16 knots, 240, and the top layer is 8,500 feet at 22 knots, also from 240. They're my temperature pressure settings. Nothing really to note there. Visibility I've set to unlimited today. These are the time and date settings. I've set the date back to the 6th of August 2013, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. This is the B21 instrument layout for the DG-600. The usual indicated airspeed on the left, the altimeter on the right, GPS nav device, centre top here. The nice part about the B21 instruments is you can load an FSX flight plan directly into this GPS nav. We've got the glide computer here, which can also act as a total energy gauge with this switch. The total energy vario on the right here. Doesn't have a speed to fly ring, but then you've got this speed to fly option here on this one, so you don't really need that. It's got an attitude indicator for cloud flying, quite handy. The sticks in the way at the moment, but down here we've got a netto vario, which effectively shows you the air movement outside the glider. It's going up, the air's going up or down, with some caveats, but basically that's what it does. You've got a trim indicator here, a little green slider here. You've got a wind indicator, which is very useful, again hidden a little bit by the stick, and of course a simple nav radio, which we won't be using today, and your water valve for dumping the water at any time. The blue handles the air brakes, and the black handle is the flap control. Also got a digital readout of the flap indicator here to help you with virtual flying. I doubt that they have that on the real glider. I've also got a digital readout for the whiskey compass. Oh, and a wristwatch clock to give you the real time, which it's all paused at the moment. Nothing's happening. The yellow knob is your tow release, as always. The GPS nav in this case accepts a standard FSX flight plan. It's currently pointing to the start of my flight plan, the first waypoint. When we get airborne, it should, with a bit of luck, index itself forward to the next point in our flight plan, which in our case is also the destination at Valemount. But if not, we can always manually index it forward with the up arrow. If I just go forward a couple of pages, it shows me the elevation of the next waypoint, in this case my current airfield. So if we come back and then index it forward to the destination airfield and then go forward 2 pages, that's now the elevation of our destination. So based on that, if I round that up and add a 600-foot safety margin to it, my arrival height there I'd be aiming at would be 3,200 feet. There's a few other little things in there we could use. I mean, there's a chronometer if we need it. If we click it again, it just resets it. We normally run in that mode there, which gives us our next waypoint, the bearing to the next waypoint. and the distance to the next waypoint. All useful information. So I'm going to Aerotow to 2,000 feet with the right hand circuit after takeoff. If we get a cable break on the launch, then I'll attempt to land straight ahead. There's some excellent areas at the end of this runway. The big issue for us today will be the crosswind, which is coming from the left at around 16 knots or more, which is probably pushing the limits for a crosswind takeoff with this glider. So I'm going to attempt to do this with landing, full landing flaps extended, see if I can stabilise the glider and get it into the air a bit quicker, but it might not be a very pretty takeoff. So I'm going to slew across onto the runway, do my takeoff checks, and I'll restart the video when we're ready to launch. So let's get the tow plane connected. Taking up slack. All out. I'm going to try and stay up. The wind's catching us. Got to get in the air quick. Okay. Now I've got to get back on station again. As you can see, there's plenty of land out opportunities at the end of this runway. Well, the full flaps seem to work on takeoff. Getting a bit high. Getting into his slipstream. Just get down a bit. Oh, I'm off station again. He's going all over the place in the wind gusts. Having a lot of trouble today with turbulence. It's my tuck plane. I'm going to have to release soon. There we go. Cable gone. He's going left, I'm going right. Oh, he's taken me to a thermal, I think. Yeah, look at my netto vario down at the bottom there. Plenty of air going up there. So I'll just do a bit of thermaling for a little while, see how we go. Just testing the amount of bank angle I can tolerate and trying to find the store point with this glider. Obviously the more you bank the glider, the higher the wing loading, so your stall speed rises a bit. I know with the DG-600 it tends to roll into the turn more once you bank too much. Just there's the stall point just there. You can hear that slight rumble and the nose starts to drop. seems to be about 48 knots or something. Maybe it's slightly slower. Because as I said, that's dependent on the bank angle. So. Still, she's thermally nicely, and she stalls gracefully, so this would be a pleasant glider to fly cross country. Climbing quite well for a fully ballasted glider. Nice easy thermal this, I don't have to keep recentering very much. You can see the wing bend there. And there. Let's have a look at the outside. Okay, we're at cloud base now. Just get back onto the ridge and do some ridge flying. Still in lift though, so I won't speed up yet. Other than to try and stay under this cloud base a bit so I can see the terrain. That's better. See now. Coming down to 7,000 feet now. Speed up now that we're in sync. Oh, we're not actually. The netto's saying the air's still going up. We're coming off the end of this little ridge line here. Should see some sink. See the wings flexing a bit there. Oh, we're bouncing around a lot. Still picking up a bit of lift. Must be another thermal here, shall we? I'm just going to adjust the easy dock, reduce the amount of I think you call it DHM. Sure, that's much better. Oh, maybe. Don't want to get airsick. Not that I usually do. Already on the ridge again. You can see the netto's already pointing upwards. We're climbing now. Climbing very well actually. We've got to get over that ridge jutting out ahead of us. So I need to keep the speed down a little bit and climb. So we want to get into the zone and sort of near the top of the ridge where we can just power along. Yeah, we're going to clear that ridge line quite easily now. Speed up a little bit now. Just make sure we clear this ridge on the left. There we go. Okay, I've come off the end of the ridge now, so sink again, I think. Neto still thinks there's some air going up. Getting a bit close to cloud base again. Let's speed up again. Could be another thermal here. I've got to be careful I don't get downwind of that ridge ahead of us. I might just turn out to the wind a bit here. Okay, see if we can hook onto the ridge again. Get into the zone. Here we go. Plenty of lift here according to the Neto, so I'll keep the speed up. Looks like the ideal height for running this ridge is around 7,000. With the cloud base where it is anyway, you can't get much above that. Starting to lose visibility. This is where that attitude indicator comes in handy on this glider. Well, you really shouldn't be flying in cloud when you're this close to terrain. Sink at the moment. back in the zone again. Yeah, about 26 nautical miles from our destination at the moment. See how she performs at high speed. Bounces a little bit. Turbulence. That's okay. Not too bad. Behaves well, controls well, trims well. See the wings flexing, gusts and turbulence. Not quite as impressive as the Discus X in that regard, but and this is a freeware glider. Yeah, there's a freeware glider. I'd happily recommend this to anyone. It's fantastic. Feels like it'd be reasonably competitive too if you were racing it. The best thing about it is it just handles well and trims well. You can have a relaxing sort of cross-country flight in this glider. Actually that wing flex is pretty impressive sometimes, every time you hit a big one. Don't you just love this Orbx scenery? And the Rex clouds. These guys have really transformed FSX. Something totally different. These gliders from Wolfgang Piper are fantastic. He's got such a range of them too. It's astonishing. B21 instrument set. It's a big help, makes it a lot easier. You still get with all the gliders, you still get the standard K-set instruments for the purist. Yeah, well, our arrival height's showing plus 1360 at the moment, so I can fly direct from here easily. Test the final glideability of this wonderful aircraft. Looks good too. She responds nicely to the stick. I like it. So I'm holding that arrival height quite well at the moment at 120, just over 120 knots. Push on a bit, increase the speed. Now the arrival heights. lift at the moment. Now we're back in sync. As you can see, I've got the flaps fully retracted at the moment to minimise drag. I just noticed this panel's also got a temperature, outside temperature gauge as well. Sort of in the lower centre there. Not a huge use in FSX, and its icing isn't really modelled. I can see the airfield now. Got about 10 nautical miles to go. Orbx Pacific Northwest scenery is fantastic. Even though it's just a facsimile of the real thing, it's still very convincing. And those roads and that river pretty much match up with what's in Google Maps anyway. That was I think what they call Red Pass Junction. We just went past there. Okay, I'm going to fly sort of straight down the valley now to get in alignment with the runway. I'm going to land straight in. We wouldn't normally do that. Normally we'd do a low pass over the airfield, pull up into either a left-hand or a right-hand circuit. But this is just a test flight, and, so I'm just going to fly straight in. And focus on dealing with the crosswind, which is horrendous today. It's coming from my right. Crosswind. I can see the airfield. I can't quite make out the runway, but I can see the alignment of it. See the wings flexing a bit. Still a little bit high arrival, but that's what the spoilers are for. Let's let the water ballast go now. Now we're dumping the water. Should never land with full tanks. Start to slow up. To approach speed. Get the wheel down. Some spoilers out, about halfway at the moment. Yeah, we're drifting too much downwind, so I need to punch up into the wind a bit. As you can see, it's a very strong crosswind. So I might have to do a side slip approach, which is a bit tricky because you've got to avoid a wing strike. You've got to try and get your wings level as you flare. It also affects, of course, the drag on the glider because you're yawing so strongly as you're side slipping. So it's a bit tricky adjusting the spoilers and side slip at the same time. I need a lot more practice at this. So this might be an ugly landing. You might want to turn away as I touch down. Still drifting downwind. Need to come across a bit, so I'll lean into the wind a bit more. And I'll just try and, with the rudder, keep the nose pointing down the runway. Not too high, so a bit of spoilers. As you see, she drops dramatically while you're side slipping and spoilers at the same time. Still having trouble stuck in alignment with the runway. Need to lean more. Just point the nose across for a bit. Until we get lined up. Still looking a little high. I've got plenty of... I can use the spoilers if I need to. Try and clear all the trees. Where it gets tricky. Be careful we don't get a wing strike here. Oh, look at that crosswind on the windsock. Now, wings level. We're offline a bit. Get the nose straight. There we go. Oh, I'm having trouble staying. She's wind veining quite dramatically there. Let's get off the runway and park this thing. All that clunking's me. You're trying to adjust the speed with the air brakes. They're very noisy, aren't they? Wow. Great glider. Very impressed. Like it. And that's it. The DG-600 from Wolfgang Piper with the B21 instruments.